it's back. And that was a great alarm. It is the transfer rumour alert. It happens every time any sort of player is suggested to be moving elsewhere. And one of the titles, who I'm going to discuss with my good friend, the True Geordie here, said, Geordie, Manchester United want a Ballon d'Or winner. Well, I want Emma Watson gift wrapped in a silver ball for Christmas, but no, it just doesn't. These things just don't happen. Everyone wants a Ballon d'Or winner. To say that Manchester United want and need a Ballon d'Or winner,
you're being a bit hard on yourself there, mate. Emma Watson's probably more possible for you than they have.
Thanks, mate. I don't know if that's a compliment to me or that's just how laughable that sort of.
But you're in LA. Anything's possible.
It could happen. It could happen. But what has been stated is that Manchester United are looking at potentially Neymar or potentially someone like Ronaldo, again, as we know. But at the same time, when you're considering the sources, and I think it was like the Daily Star that ran something like that, it's just funny to bring up. But, I mean, the Daily Star, what do you usually use the Daily Star for, Geordie?
Fish and chip paper back in the day, wasn't it?
I was either that or it was your kind of your low caliber little look at naked ladies in there. That was all it was. And then you'd flip back into the phone numbers at the back and see if you would ever call one.
Oh, Christ.
I think
Mate, it's garbage, isn't it?
So some of the sources, though, actually do have some interesting predictions. Now, one of them, which, as we mentioned a little bit in the last clip, I just don't want to see happen. The fairy tale is going too well at the moment, but Jamie Vardy being tipped to a potential move to Manchester United or to Liverpool. What are you thinking?
Well, it makes sense. I mean, he's on fire at the minute, this lad, isn't he? I mean, he's the real deal by the looks of it. I mean, I don't expect him to continue that kind of form, but I think he's a very worthy member of any Premier League squad right now. Man United have clearly got an issue where Wayne Rooney is over the hill. His legs are shot as shit.
Yeah.
They've got a good young player in Martial, but they need someone to bridge that gap until Martial is banging in 20+ goals a season. Who can they get right now? Jamie Vardy, maybe. That sort of makes some sense. Liverpool, they've got Benteke, who I don't think suits the style of football they play. Daniel Sturridge does, but he's injured 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that also makes some sense, you know?
I mean, I understand it. Like from logistically, I understand why people would want to go in, and I don't think he would be cheap. I think Leicester would have to consider a big money offer for Jamie Vardy. Would the neutral footballing fans of the world want to see it happen? No, because everyone's enjoying this underdog team and where they might end up. Still don't think people are considering them enough, as we just mentioned there. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that Leicester are actually at this moment title contenders and winning games which other teams have struggled with. We see Liverpool struggle to beat Swansea. They get a penalty kick. You see Leicester demolish them comfortably, and that's where I don't want to see that consistent attacking threat dismantled. I don't want to see Mahrez move. I don't want to see Jamie Vardy move. But then elsewhere, other teams are still going to look to strengthen. So out of the top Premier League teams at the moment, the teams who are looking to challenge, who do you think should be looking more so in the transfer window rather than the other?
I would probably say Arsenal because they've got so many injuries right now. I think they lack strength and depth. When it comes to number 10s, attacking midfielders, they've got a million of those. They could, feed a starving country with as many bodies as they've got in there. But aside from that, central defensive midfielder, I would think would be an obvious one. Maybe he's a centre-back. And Giroud is decent and Walcott is decent, but I still feel like if someone did become available, a striker wouldn't be a bad idea either.
You've got more chance of Wayne Rooney's hair growing back to the length of mine than you have of Arsene Wenger going out and spending enough money on a defensive midfielder, which he needs to do. We're talking previously on the clip of the Football Republic about Carvalho maybe going to Arsenal, a kind of box-to-box, hard-working player, and they need someone like that to fill that void that Coquelin has potentially left. We don't exactly know the extent of his injury or whether or not he'll come back or not, but they need to bring in someone. Their second string needs to be up to the highest caliber, because I've stated this before. The second string players that come into this team and those difficult away days are what's going to win this Premier League this season. Manchester City have shown once again against Stoke that this Premier League is open for any team that wants to potentially take it by the cuff of the balls, basically, and grab it and drag it home. But they need to have strength in there. They need to have that depth. Manchester United, I think, have depth in their midfield. I just don't think they have the right team selection. You still don't see Louis van Gaal choosing the right players, and do they need to add another player potentially?
You look at Manchester United, for me, I would buy a striker. As aside from that, I think that they're pretty much, they're all right. You know, they went and bought Memphis, who I think has got talent, and I think with the right nurturing, I'm not sure Louis van Gaal's the man to bring him on. We've seen how Louis van Gaal has done with Di Maria and other players who are naturally like flair wide men. I'm not sure he's the man for that job. But as for Manchester City, obviously a replacement, a backup for Vincent Kompany would be an obvious idea. I can't believe I'm saying Man City need to buy another player. I can't believe I'm even saying that. In Liverpool, I just want to see Jurgen Klopp bring his players in. Right now, he's doing a very decent job with Brendan Rodgers' players, but we know that Jurgen Klopp has got a type of player that he likes, a big, strong, Terminator-type player who's going to run through walls for him. And when he does get those kind of players in, maybe it'll be too early from this season, but next season, I'm very interested to see how he does.
I'm just waiting for him to do some really stern German calling call, like "Ach, nicht, na, na," and then Mads Hummels will just come walking through with the rest of that brigade from Dortmund will just come wandering in and just take just come marching in and take over Liverpool. It would be interesting to see. All right, so we never even mentioned one team, but we have to go to them before we move across to maybe La Liga and another big transfer that's been tipped there. Chelsea. I mean, it's another team that you can't even bring yourself to say that they need to bring in other players. I did think they had to bring in another defender. Do you think they're going to go back in for Stones?
I think that would be a good idea. I think Stones, and I've been saying this for about a year and a half at least now, partner for Nemanja Matic has to be a priority. William Carvalho, you mentioned him for Arsenal. He would be a good idea for Chelsea because we've seen the gaps that Cesc Fabregas leaves. He just can't play that position. He's not responsible enough. And going forward, I rate Pedro, I rate Eden Hazard. Maybe he's not as highly as some others do. I mean, he's been bad this season, but they've got talent, these lads. They need good runners in front of them. Maybe even they could look at Jamie Vardy or somebody like that because Diego Costa's runs have been piss poor this season and they need more going forward without doubt.
Yeah, so in the last couple of ones, there's a couple of transfer rumours. There was one that Bleacher Report ran as their headline saying, is Lewandowski going to be the next Galactico? So I don't think that meant January, but I think it just meant overall. Robert Lewandowski, of course, firing in all cylinders. These sort of headlines, I mean, they are ridiculous to me, but at the same time, you see someone like Toni Kroos moving to Real Madrid before, but then again, I don't think he was as highly rated by Pep Guardiola as next to Schweinsteiger and Xabi Alonso and those guys that he had in his ranks before they moved over. But Lewandowski, is that something that you think you could potentially see in the future? I mean, for me, I don't understand why he would be looking elsewhere. He's got everything he needs to look for in a team and a potential future at Bayern Munich.
Well, personally, I think if you have the option to go to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona, as highly rated as Bayern Munich are, I would find it hard to not do that because you have such a small window in your career, and Lewandowski is good enough to play for either of those teams. But obviously, I don't think he'll get in at Barcelona because they've got Suarez, who's their centre forward, he's their striker. And Real Madrid do have a habit of going out and picking the best player available every summer. And outside of the obvious guys who they've already got are at Barcelona, Lewandowski's probably the best performer. So it kind of makes sense, but I think it would take a lot to sway him away from Bayern Munich. But I would go if I was him, if I'm honest.
Yeah, when you look at Lewandowski, I mean, I don't think he fits into the system of Barcelona. If you went there, you've seen Zlatan kind of struggle at Barcelona when they try to play that kind of bigger striker who's holding up the ball more so. But when you see these more nimble strikers as your David Villa or your Luis Suarez, they fit into that system better. And of course, they're world-class players in that. But Lewandowski could easily, I think, go in and fill the void that Benzema might leave, seeing what's going to happen with him. Don't know if Valbuena is going to let him play for another club. They might have to duel it out with that whole blackmail scandal that seems to be going on. We don't know the full details. All we know is that Benzema's playing with some pretty dodgy biscuits in there. But overall, I think that's the gist of the rumours. The last one, which everyone continues to say, and it's really hard to predict because it's the same situation you just mentioned. Gareth Bale, I think, despite the first season he had at Real Madrid where he was great, I don't think he's reached the heights in which he performed in the Premier League before he left. I thought he was maybe top 10 players in the world, but before he left that last season at Tottenham, he was frighteningly good. Would you see him go back to the Premier League? I know Manchester United are always kind of circling the pond, waiting for the chance to go in and take Gareth Bale back out. Would you see him moving?
I really hope he doesn't go back to the Premier League to play under Louis van Gaal. I just don't think that's the manager for him. There's rumours of Carlo Ancelotti coming in at Manchester United down the road. If that happened, I think that would be a really good time to go. I do see him ending up in Manchester United. It seems like the obvious move, you know, to go back and be the next Welsh wizard after Ryan Giggs. And I agree with you. I don't think it suits Gareth Bale having to worry about the ego of Ronaldo and all of this. I feel like when he's on the pitch, he's worrying about upsetting people. Now, when you're on the pitch, you should be concentrating on scoring from wherever the fuck you want, shooting from wherever you want. He's quality. When you said yourself, when he played for Spurs, he was world class, out of this world. So I think that when he's at Real Madrid now, he seems to be, I've got to pass to Ronaldo. I've got to, you know, make Ronaldo feel good. I've got to help him do his records and all. That shouldn't be even on Gareth Bale's mind.
Yeah.
And I think that has hindered his development at Real Madrid, the ego of Ronaldo. And I would much prefer him be a main man at Man United than second fiddle at Real Madrid.
All right, well, that wraps up the transfer rumours. I know there'll be plenty of more heading towards the January transfer window as we come close to Christmas. Thanks again to the Geordie for coming on. Make sure to check out both of his channels. We'll be discussing all of the rumours, more so everything coming up soon. Check out another UFC clip is actually coming with myself and the Geordie. I know you want to see that.